Converted Man here. Welcome to my analysis of Why Atheism Is Nonsense, Part 1. The Laws of Logic Are Material by Religion Philosophy. What's interesting about Part 1 is religion philosophy doesn't give us any arguments at all. He merely cherry-picked a previous debate and presents it as if it is his debate. But before I get to that, let me deal with this piece of nonsense. Not only does Gordon address what the laws of logic are in actuality, but does give a justification of them. I guess religion philosophy just misses that. So I'm going to say it again in a different way, and maybe, just maybe, religion philosophy will get it this time. The laws of logic are created by humans for humans. They have evolved throughout time and will continue to evolve throughout time, both because our language itself evolves and our understanding of certain principles evolves as well. Logic can be seen to work if you apply the structure of it and you apply the formulas correctly. You will see the result, and the result will be what is valid within logic. It may or may not reflect reality because logic is limited to what it can and cannot do. The justification of logic, what does that even mean? I guess you're asking what justifies our ability to use it, or what justifies us keeping it around because we made it or something. I don't really know what this question is supposed to be asking, but if you want a justification, it works. So we still use it because it works. If it didn't work, we wouldn't use it. Alright, now for my analysis of Greg versus Gordon, the cherry-picked argument being presented as if it was religion philosophy's argumentation. Here's the analysis of what's going on.
I heard you mention logical binds and logical self-contradictions in your speech. You did say that?
I said it. I used that phrase, yes.
Do you believe there are laws of logic then?
Absolutely.
Are they universal?
They're agreed upon by human beings. They aren't laws that exist out in nature.
Are they simply conventions then?
They're conventions, but they're conventions that are self-verifying.
Are they sociological laws or laws of thought?
They are laws of thought which are interpreted by men and promulgated by men.
Are they material in nature?
How can a law be material?
That's the question I'm going to ask you. Thank you.
I would say no.
Gordon is great. Greg gravitates gratuitously towards garbage. I'm not sure that really works, but whatever. Gordon is right. Honest about what the laws of logic are and explaining them in a coherent manner. His opponent seems to be confused about what logic is and where it came from and how it works. The fact that the laws of logic are immaterial should not surprise him at all. Why would that matter? Of course they aren't material. They exist inside our brains and can only exist in our brains as thoughts. If you transcribed it to paper, then they would exist on that paper, but unless somebody knew how to read, they wouldn't have any use of that. You could put them on a hard drive of a computer, again, reducing it to digital code, but again, it would be useless without a person to interpret what it means. So that these ideas are only able to exist inside of our brains. Period. They cannot and do not exist outside of our brains. Why is that something to laugh at? You got me.
Dr. Bonson, would you call God material or immaterial?
Immaterial.
What is something that's immaterial?
Something not extended in space.
Can you give me an example of anything other than God that's immaterial?
Laws of logic.
Ha 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 ha. It's so funny because he's stupid. Okay, so thanks. You just won Gordon's debate. Good job, Greg. You just won your opponent's debate for him. Now, the audience laughs thinking that Greg won, but it's Gordon who won, and here's why. If we are to take this as it comes to us in this cherry-picked form, and I am doing that, and this is religion philosophy's argument, these two arguing against each other is his argument. He's trying to say, my guy won, your guy lost. Therefore, I'm right and you're wrong. His guy didn't win, and here's why. So you're equating the laws of logic that are immaterial, that do not exist or extend into space, that can only exist in our brains, with God? You sure you want to do that, Greg / religion philosophy? If so, then congratulations, you've just admitted that God can only exist in our brains. That the only immaterial thing that you pointed at is something that we know exists only in our brains. To equate God with that is then to say that God exists only in our brains, which is fine from a skeptical or atheist point of view, but not so fine for the theistic point of view. God kind of needs to exist outside of our brains as well. So what is it about this pre-assumptionalism here that always tries to use something like logic and somehow tie it in with God? Logic, as well as mathematics and language itself, are things that exist in our brains. That's the only place they can exist. It's the only place they do exist. What the pre-assumptionalist wants to do is say, see, that thing is this spooky thing that doesn't just exist inside our brains, but also exists outside of our brains somehow. And in fact, it can't exist unless it also exists outside our brains. And once they've got you believing that this stuff somehow exists outside of our brains, then they'll say, and God is the same thing as that. Woo! Okay, yeah. But I'm not agreeing with that first craziness, so that second thing is a non sequitur. There's no reason to use this argument. It fails utterly. Out the gate, even before it even gets out the gate, they already shot the horse. The horse is glue. There's glue in the stall sitting there. It's not even at the gate. The glue that used to be the horse is still in the stall. Nobody's even on it. There's no way it can win the race. Yet, you bet everything that you own on that glue, knowing that it was glue, thinking that you had won the race anyway. I think that that analogy actually works better than your analogy did, but arguments to analogy are always weak for one or more reasons, and I try not to use them myself, so I'll stop now. I think you get my point. So, religion philosophy calls this video the laws of logic are material. The opponent of him, which is Gordon, never says that the laws of logic are material. So, if you had an atheist and or a skeptic or both saying the laws of logic were material, then I personally would have some issue with that, and it would make them incoherent unless they gave a logically coherent argument for it, which is in theory possible, but it still wouldn't be true in reality unless they could give us some way to verify it in reality as well, and that would be interesting. But no one does it, ever, so the name of the video is a straw man. Next, the argument presented by religion philosophy self-destructs his argument for God, because it associates God with something that is known to exist only in our minds, making God equal to something that exists only in our minds, meaning God exists only in our minds, period. Whoops, I don't think that that's what you meant to do, but if it is, then never mind, you did it well. Congratulations. Although I'm not sure how that shows atheism is nonsense. In fact, none of this video shows that, argues that at all. Oops. Perhaps rather than cherry-picking someone else's argument, make your own. Well, I don't have anything here. I've got cherry-picking, I've got a straw man, And I've got an argument that reductio ad absurdum itself for me, so I literally have nothing to go on here. But he has 7 parts in total, meaning I have 6 other videos to analyze. Well, maybe one of those videos will show that atheism is nonsense.
Can I ask that you hold that down?
I'm sorry, moderator. I'll hold my laughter down. So we have these 3 fallacies, and even if we didn't have the 3 fallacies, nowhere is the argument given for why we should think atheism is nonsense, meaning that we also have a formal fallacy of failure to give an argumentation. Unless and until we have a logically coherent argument, we must continue to be skeptical of the conclusion.